Good evening, Horror Stories. My name is Aaron, and I've been a truck driver on the routes of the United States for most of my life. At 54 years old, I must say that this profession is very special to me. It has been my livelihood and that of my family for many years, and I enjoy it immensely. Additionally, it has afforded me the opportunity to make many friends who are also colleagues, and I have traveled the country thanks to this job. However, it also has its dark side. It's no secret that some routes in the United States can be dangerous, especially those that are extremely narrow, dark, and with poor visibility. But beyond that, my colleagues and I have experienced very strange occurrences that lack logical explanation. This story is precisely about one of those experiences, something that happened to me a while ago, and that remains a mystery both to me and to the people around me. It's really chilling to remember it. I was returning after delivering a load, driving along Route 80 on my way to my hometown, Lincoln. It was past 10 o'clock at night. The road was quiet but dark, with little traffic. I was listening to music as usual when suddenly I received a call over the radio from a friend of mine who is also a truck driver. I responded enthusiastically and greeted him, but I was surprised to hear from him because he had told me earlier that week that he was taking a vacation to take his kids to Disney, as it was summer. He simply told me that he had broken down near the road I was traveling on and needed my help, knowing that I was in the area. "Of course, buddy, give me the exact location to know where you are and how long it will take me to get there," I said. He provided it to me with great precision, which seemed a bit strange, but at least it ensured my safe arrival. Upon checking the GPS, I saw that it was about a 40-minute drive away, so I would be there soon. I wanted to continue talking to him to find out why he hadn't gone on vacation after all, but he immediately hung up. I didn't question anything and kept driving, although I had no idea what had happened to the truck, as he hadn't told me anything about it. At worst, I would pick it up and take it with me to the city, and the next day we would go see a mechanic. As I continued driving along the road, it became progressively darker and narrower, intensifying my sense of uncertainty with every curve I navigated. I wondered where my colleague was headed to take this route. Perhaps he was looking for a shortcut or had some other reason that I was unaware of. The only thing that worried me was the area where it had broken down, since it was somewhat desolate, and the truth is that I had never taken that route before. After a few minutes of driving, I arrived at the place my friend had indicated to me. I parked my truck near where he said his vehicle was, and got out to inspect the situation. The darkness of night enveloped the path, and I could only hear the sound of my own breathing and the faint hum of insects in the distance. I started to feel tense when I realized that my colleague and his truck were not where they were supposed to be. Despite being in the exact place he had indicated, there was no response when I tried to contact him by radio. I decided to grab a flashlight and walk around to take a look. As I walked a few meters, I realized that the path ended abruptly. There was no longer a path. It was at that moment that I knew something was wrong. Suddenly, a disturbing sound broke the silence of the night. It was like a distant whisper, but clear enough to perceive. I stopped and listened carefully, trying to identify where that sound was coming from. I decided to return to the truck, and, in the meantime, I tried to contact him several times on his cell phone, but I got no response. So I decided to call his wife, who answered immediately. I explained the whole situation to her, trying not to worry her too much, but also wanted to know if my colleague had contacted her. Just as I was about to finish speaking, she interrupted me and said, "Wait a minute, Aaron. Is this some kind of joke? Peter is here with me. Didn't he tell you he was going on vacation this week with the kids here?" My blood ran cold. It was clear that the person who had contacted me by radio was not Peter. His voice was identical, but it wasn't him. Whoever that person was, or whatever it was, had pretended to be Peter, and I was in a state of shock, especially since he had called me by my name. Peter's wife spoke to me concerned and immediately passed the phone to my colleague. Peter asked me, "Bro, are you okay?" I summed up the whole situation in a few minutes, and before I could finish talking, he said, "Bro, get out of there. My truck is at home and I'm on vacation with the kids. It wasn't me who got through." And then the call was cut off abruptly. I tried calling him again, but I had no signal. I was breathless for a moment, and that's when I saw something that made my blood run cold. In the distance, barely visible in the gloom, I made out a dark figure moving among the trees, stalking me. My instinct told me to get out of there, so I quickly backed away with my heart beating in my chest at a mile an hour. The feeling of fear and confusion consumed me as I looked around me, feeling every shadow and sound take on a new, sinister importance in the darkness of the night. Then, at some point, the radio came on again. I responded, thinking it was a colleague, perhaps someone Peter had contacted to let them know he was in trouble. However, in the middle of the interference, a barely discernible, eerie voice uttered a phrase that gave me chills. "Don't go. Come back." The scare was such that I threw the radio away. His voice had a devilish tone. I was in the middle of the darkness, and at that moment my only concern was getting out of there. The feeling of unease was overwhelming. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel tightly, desperately trying to find a logical explanation for what I had just experienced. However, no answer seemed enough to calm my nerves. I hurried my exit from that place as much as possible while frantically searching for my cell phone, which had fallen to the floor of the truck during the sudden maneuver. My only wish was to contact Peter as soon as possible. I managed to grab the phone. With just a few bars of signal, I dialed Peter's number and there was silence on the other end of the line. But the radio wouldn't stop playing since we couldn't turn it off. Everything became complete chaos. I don't know what or who it was. I didn't stop until I got off the road. A few minutes later, I got the signal back and my phone rang. It was Peter, worried about how I was feeling. I told him, "Bro, I'm out of there. I'm safe and I'm headed home." The return trip seemed endless. After a few hours, I finally got home and my wife was waiting for me. She was already aware of the situation because Peter had contacted her the moment I lost signal. He asked him to call if he knew anything about me. She was very worried, but relieved that I was safe at home. I couldn't believe what had just happened, and I kept wondering what would have happened if I hadn't been able to get out of there. After that chilling encounter on the road, I spent several sleepless nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that creepy voice echoing in my head again. I felt constantly watched, like something was lurking in the shadows. Over time, I tried to put that chilling encounter behind me, but I could never completely get rid of it. I always had the feeling that something dark and sinister lurked at night on lonely roads, waiting for its next victim. And since then, every time I'm traveling and the radio comes on, I wonder if it's really a colleague or something pretending to be one. For a while, I tried to avoid taking long trips to avoid driving at night, but my need to work forced me to undertake longer and better-paying journeys. I chose not to share what had happened with my boss and colleagues at the base. Only Peter knew. I didn't want them to think it was just my imagination, or that I was losing my mind. Stay vigilant, as paranormal phenomena can occur in the darkest corners of every road. If you have enjoyed this story, we invite you to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any others. Until next time.